Hey everybody, welcome to Zen Minded Men. We're your hosts. I'm Art Gulley.
Vince Ellis, and we kind of put this idea together with the controversy or what the climate, I guess, the climate of what's going on and the technology. There's been a lot of negativity that's come out of the whole COVID thing, but I think one of the positive things is we're getting familiar with technology like this video communication and try to use that for something good, I guess.
Definitely.
So a little bit about who we are and our history, I guess.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, what we have in common is a love for the martial arts,
Definitely.
right? So you and I met mid 90s, maybe?
I believe it was at a Renaissance tournament. It was 90, I want to say 95.
Were you still
96.
in uh, Dexter Davison then?
I was still at Dexter Davidson.
Right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So anyway, mid 90s, yeah, I started training in Southfield 92 or 93 with
Yeah, I
Master
started training
Adams.
at Dexter Davidson. It was
So you were,
90. It was February of 93. I
yeah,
started training at
so,
Dexter Davidson.
right. So that's probably
Yeah.
right. So it was
Yeah.
the North American Karate Championships.
Yeah.
And
And we met at a tournament. We were in a sparring match, and we didn't know we trained under the same senseis. We were in different schools.
different
So
schools.
we
Yeah.
met at the tournament, battled it out, good battle, and you
Yeah.
beat me in that one. And then we ended up. I came to Southfield, and I'm like, I say, hey, what are you doing here? And you're like, hey, what are you doing here? And then we
Yeah.
discovered that we're both our schools were under. We should mention our master is Grandmaster Willie Adams
Yes. Yeah.
in Ishinru Karate, and that's what
Yep.
that's one of our primary. That's the primary disciplines that we study. And
Exactly.
we started training and battle royals, and
Yeah.
we
Good.
walk in the mat. It's like I'd see him, he'd see me, and it's like, oh, here we go. It's about to be a battle.
But good times, right? I
It
mean,
was
we
great
were we
because
were
we, we
training
we loved the
partners.
martial arts, and we
Yeah.
taught each other. We learned from each other, and then became
Yep.
friends. Basically, two, like you said, two
Exactly.
different
Traveled.
guys,
Yeah.
two totally
Hit the
different
circuit
walks.
together.
Hmm.
Fun stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. Then when, like you said, Davison finally closed down, and
great,
everybody kind of merged at the old Southfield location,
right,
and then it was just a regular thing. It was 3
right.
4 days a week. We were all training together. So
Yeah, we were learning
uh,
everything, katas,
good
techniques,
good time.
discussing different principles. It was just great,
Yep.
great.
So yeah, through 99, I guess I
Yeah,
relocated in 99.
yeah.
Uh, Left Michigan, came to southeastern Kentucky, where I live now. So I've been living in southeastern Kentucky since November of 99. Much different environment than Metro Detroit. I was
Definitely,
living in uh,
definitely.
Hazel Park at the time, so a
Yeah,
northern suburb of Detroit.
yeah.
Uh, but had lived in, that's pretty much where I grew up, uh, in that area. But now I live in a very very rural community. But
Probably
still
peaceful.
training, still doing martial arts. Um, and that's the thing that keeps us together, right? That is
Yeah,
a world community,
it is, and
martial
and,
arts
and
and
that's
people.
and that's the beauty of it. And initially, when you think about martial arts, people always, they're going on, oh, karate, it's fighting, it's blah blah, and yeah, it is. But I think for me, and I'm pretty sure for you and other martial artists, it's about a self betterment. It's about way to really learn about yourself. I mean, yeah, you're gonna learn how to defend yourself, but you're gonna learn how to move, not just through a fight, but you're gonna learn how to move through life. Your
Through
mental's gonna
life, that's the
change. You're gonna
ticket.
discover
Yeah.
meditation and just how to really. And I think you and I share that, and it's cool because we'll pick up, we'll chat on the thing Facebook every now and then, or we see each other at the tournaments, the Grand Nationals, and it's like it's no
Yeah.
time pass because it's like, hey, how's it going? Except that now our kids who were just being born at the time are now grown, and
Right.
well, my hair is just about disappeared, and
Mine's
you've
turning
got a little
white.
of the gray, so
Yeah, mine's turning white. So, but yeah, exactly. And again, the community, I think, is what some people who don't train don't understand.
right,
The greater community of the martial art, and being now looking back, over the past 30 years that we've been training, 20 something years, you can
Yeah.
really appreciate that. And the friendships and, camaraderie that goes along with it.
Yeah.
There is
You're,
people.
you're a member of a brotherhood in a sense.
Yeah,
And no matter where
exactly.
you go, even it's weird. If you're out at the store somewhere and you're at the store and you bump into someone and you don't even know them, and for whatever reason you strike up a conversation and martial arts come up, all of a sudden you've got a shared understanding.
Something to talk about.
If they're a completely different school, completely discipline, but fundamentally they still got the same. You've got that link, and
They
it's a
yeah.
good thing.
They
You're never
understand that
really
you
alone.
are a determined type of person.
Hmm.
You've got some drive behind you, and things to talk about. And for us, in our shared experience with especially with the Southfield group, and the group under Master Adams, I would say that I've been detached for quite a while,
Yeah.
but you know it's a unique experience in that you mentioned brotherhood. It is very much a family atmosphere,
It is.
because it was kind of a joke in a sense, but we were known as a hugging group. You know, when we meet each other, when we travel, we be at a tournament. First thing you do, come up, clasp hands. Give your brother
Do the
a hug, give
hug.
your
Yep.
sister a hug,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Because we were just tight like that.
Was.
Everybody put in a lot of effort. You sweat together, you bled together, you know, you understand.
Broke bones together. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a line in the movie The Matrix, and I always love this line. The second one when they're fighting in the tea room, and he says, well, why didn't you just ask who I was? It's like you never truly know someone until you fight them, and that's
Yeah,
it's
you
a
find out where
cliche,
the
but
boundaries are
you
then.
find out about a person when you fight a person. You realize what they're made of and where they're coming at, because it's like like you were always on top of your game, which means I had to be on top of my game, and everyone around us who trained, they were on top of their game. So you understand that, what,
If they
we're here
weren't, they
for a
got on the other
reason, and
side of the
we're
map.
gonna we're gonna have this drive, and whatever we're
That's it.
doing, we're gonna be driving at it. So
Yeah,
you take that out of the dojo, it's like, yeah, we're gonna train hard at karate, but then we're also gonna work hard when we go on our jobs. We're gonna put
yeah,
the best we can into it. We're also, when we do our families, because we're both family men, we're going to be like, okay, those same principles, I got to apply them to my family life. Now, the good
exactly.
thing is you learn discipline, which you need if you're married, because as you know, wives and kids can sometimes push you to the mat. But
Yeah,
you use that discipline that you learn to realize, okay, hey, I can move through this, I can move through that. Any situation life comes at you, you can move through it. And
that's
and
it.
and you realize that your brothers in the martial arts are the same thing. Any of us guys can get together and talk. We all got that same core. It's a weirdness, but we all got the same veneer, the same attitudes. We all move the same way. And it's kind of strange when you look at it that way. It's like, oh, this because you guys kick and punch together? Well, yeah, because we're learning something. I guess if we were dancers or musicians, it would be kind of the same thing. You got that shared foundation, but that's
Maybe.
kind of what drives me. It's not just the training, it's the camaraderie you get from the training and the knowledge you get. So, hey,
And the structure, again,
definitely.
I think you said it very well, how you're able to use the philosophies or the principles
Hmm.
that the martial arts gives you to navigate through life.
Hmm.
I try to tell, I guess, just to give information to everybody. Currently, I'm a engineering management. I'm in engineering management for a major automotive firm, a tier one supplier, and outside of that, I do own and operate my own karate school. So one of the things that I try to tell people coming in is, if you will allow yourself to if you will allow the art to be a part of your life, if it's not something that, if it does, it's not an activity, if it truly
Hmm.
becomes a way of life, it's almost like a skeleton that your life gets draped on. It
Exactly.
becomes the bones or the substructure of everything. And no matter what you're doing, you start running your thoughts through certain channels.
Yes.
You look at them certain ways, kind of like when you kumite, when we fight, you know, you look at conflict certain ways. That's all life is. A fight
Yes.
is conflict management.
It's all
So
it
is
is.
life.
It's all it is.
You know, you're
All it
you're
is.
you're just moving in and out in a fight. Timing. When do I attack? When do I defend? When do I move?
Mm-hmm.
That is the flow of life. You
Yeah.
know,
And it
one of
gives you
the
that structure for it.
yeah, one of the precepts of whether you're looking at what we know as the code of Ishinru, or what's commonly referred to as
The 8 poems of the fist.
yeah, but the time to strike is when the opportunity presents itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you really understand that, or try to internalize that concept,
Mm-hmm.
number one, you'll always have yourself in a position to be able to react to opportunities,
Exactly.
in life,
And that's the
in
key.
life. And then two, you'll be on the lookout for those
Yep.
opportunities.
Yeah.
And for myself personally, I think that's one of the greatest things that the martial arts has done for me.
Yeah.
Because as I said, right now I'm in a management position for a very large global company, and on paper I probably shouldn't be there, maybe, as far as education goes and things like that. If you look at what society would tell you,
Right.
and I think we probably come from that transitional era. I just turned 51.
Yeah.
So I know my kids, as they were coming through school, they were taught that if you don't have a college degree, you'll never have a job,
Nothing.
never have a career. And now we're suffering from that,
Because we've lost skilled workers
lost skilled workers
in the
tremendously.
trades, and
So yeah, I
now
did go
it,
on to
yeah,
secondary education and went to college, but I think what got me where I'm at now is the fundamental skills. I worked in the tool and die trade primarily. So that brought me to the company that I work for now, and allowed me to transition. I went, from a tool and die maker to an engineering position, then through that into engineering management.
right.
And mostly because, and even my growth through my entire career was managing opportunities. It was we got this new piece of equipment, who wants to learn how to use it? I
Exactly.
do. you know
Exactly.
and just the drive to do. If most that particular trade is self-motivated. Most of the jobs that I had, I had to motivate myself to do my work. You get a drawing and you get a piece of material, it's up to you to make it become whatever it's supposed to be.
Right.
And I just think that I can understand why in Japan in the early days they wanted to introduce that to the into the university. I think probably
They want to
Juro.
provide structure for the students. They needed something for a student, a young mind. A young minds need discipline. And the best way to use that discipline, best way to get discipline is through an activity. Sports is one way of doing it, group sports, music programs another. The martial arts, like you mentioned, the Japanese, when they took it from Okinawan, the system was designed karate, it was Tode, it was strictly for defense. The
Yes.
Japanese, when they came, because they occupied it at the time, they discovered it, they moved it up and they said, well, we want to introduce this into our system, but we need to organize it. We need to,
Yes.
to basically make it something that we can build upon. And they took it and they added the spiritual aspect to it and the discipline aspect. And now you've got a unified thing that you can bring a whole nation of workers, a whole industries. You can all bring them together and say, we're gonna build our industry based on these principles. A lot of the business models, and they use Miyamoto Musashi's book of excuse
Five
me,
rings. Yeah.
Book of Five Rings. They use oh man, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Sun Tzu's The Art of War,
Art of
and their
War. Yes.
business principles, and they've taken those warrior fighting principles and moved it. Because I know now in my company, because myself, I'm also in the big three automakers, but I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm on the line. You know, I've been on the line for, let me see, I've been there going on 22 years. So I get to see firsthand, and I often work with engineers who design the tools we're using and all that. So I'm the one saying, well, your concept doesn't work, or your concept is working great, and your
Yes.
concept can be improved. But you use that when you're on the line working. It's repetitive, and you it's easy to get bored with it. But when you start breaking it down, your job, you break down what you're doing the same way you break down your technique. You know, for us, a punch is not a punch. A punch is several steps. It's balance, it's weight, it's philosophy, it's the momentum of the punch going behind it, it's the retractions, it's all of this. When you apply that to your job, all of a sudden you realize, well, everything I'm doing, you're constantly trying to streamline that, streamline that, streamline that. And when the opportunity to do so arises, the engineer comes in and he says, oh, first, one of the concepts, the eye must see all sides, the ear must listen in all directions. When the engineer comes, you hear him talking, you see what he's doing, you take the opportunity, give your advice, he gives it back. Now you've improved upon that. So you're actually making your life better. And it's really cool to see that, because you also have to, sometimes you have to understand that you can't always go for it. We're taught that in a fight, you don't go forward, you don't go back, you take the angles if the situation calls. So it teaches you sometimes in life, a situation is going to come at you and you can't block it. All you can do is angle out of the way, deflect it a
Give way
bit,
to force.
absorb the impact of it, and redistribute it in a way that you can handle it. And
Exactly.
that comes from, that comes from your personal life on down. And before I started at the plant, I was in the trades. I was at I worked at a now defunct weatherization for the city of Detroit, and they made me a shop carpenter. And it was weird because the reason it happened, we did insulation, that kind of stuff. One of the foremen, I'm a musician. He came to my house to buy a drum machine, and when he came in, I was giving him a tour of the house, and he saw my train city that I built. I mean, I just took a bunch of scrap wood and made buildings and bridges, and he's just like, "This is amazing. This is incredible. This is." I said, "Well, it's what I do. It's a hobby, you know." I go to work. This is a Friday. I go to work Monday. They call me into the office and they said, listen, we've got sash makers and we do this. We're trying to start a new program with our funding. Your boss here has told us that you're a woodworker, but in a sense, I said, well, I'm not a formally trained carpenter. I don't have a journeyman's. They said, that's not a problem. We want you to take what you've got and we're going to put you in charge of this new little department. So I became a sash maker. And I would go to, there's a couple of wood shops, and the journeyman carpenters would show me things. And it I took that opportunity. It was like at that moment, that was the time to strike. An opportunity presented itself. I went for it. And you move forward in life. You transition from that. I went to glass. I went to a shop where I was cabinet maker. And through that, a guy came in. He had a contract with us. We were making cabinets for a retail store. He was the glass man for it, glazer. And we got to talking. That job was decent, but he got to talking and says, I can offer you a better opportunity. I can offer you a skilled trade. I left that, went with him. Then I learned the glass trade. And you keep building upon each thing, those skills you learn, you carry it wherever you go. Okay. And I got into the auto industry. That was great. I was like, okay, this is great. It's great money. It's great insurance. I was not a college person. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Tried it, didn't work.
Same
Numerous
thing.
occasions,
I am
I
not a
tried it. It didn't
formal.
work.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't learn best in that atmosphere.
Yeah, I
I'm a.
never made it past, I don't know. See, I gave total college time. I probably have a semester and a half
Yeah.
in, but I was
I went 2 years,
that,
but I didn't finish my degree. So.
yeah. But we were fortunate because we
Yeah.
had those skills, we had the trades that allowed us to make good money
Good
and
money.
allowed us
Yeah.
to provide for our families. And I think we've lost that now. It's like you're saying, everyone is so hell bent on, you got to go to college, you got to go to college. Okay, well, here's the thing. Now you've got all these people that in college, went to college, they graduated, there's no jobs because the other people that went to college are still working.
Yeah.
But
And
while
you've
you're
incurred
waiting
all
for a
this
job,
debt.
yeah, you're totally in debt. Not
You're
only
starting
that,
life on the
stuff
back
around you is
foot.
breaking down. you don't know how to fix it. You can't call anybody to fix it because there's no trades.
That's
Because
right.
everyone thinks that for some reason we're so gun-ho on that piece of paper on our wall that we forget that no, it's not, life is not about that piece of paper on your wall telling you what you are. No, it's about you getting out there, doing it, finding out for yourself. I tell my sons, I'm blessed, I got 3 sons, and I tell them it's not about what you know, it's about what you do with what you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
One of them's in college and he's like, he didn't really want to be. I said, you at least get a starting point. But he's an artist. Kid's phenomenal artist. He's selling his artwork. He's doing his thing. He's got his own plan. I may not agree with all of it, but he's got a plan. I have my twins. They're still in high school. They're seniors. One's a musician. That's his love. I mean, the kid is great. He's focused on that. The other one, he wants to get into the trades. He's very good with his hands. He's looking at, he says, I'm really thinking I don't know if I'm going to the mechanic field or I'm also looking at this physical therapy thing, and he's researching it. And it's great because 2 of them are like, well, yeah, I'm going to look for the university to teach me that, or I'm going to look for the trade school. But they understand that if I don't go to college, as long as I do something to give me that education, that skill, I can still be productive in life. And we are able to give them that foundation because the martial arts teach us one first and foremost thing. When you walk into the dojo at Southfield and even at the new dojo in Southfield, the big one, the first thing you've seen is a sign that says black belts, we will give out before we give up.
That's right.
And that's what we learn. So no matter when you're on your job, this job is not working for me, I'm going to keep finding a better job. I'm not going to quit. When you're doing anything, you're going to I'm not going to quit. And so we're able to translate that to our kids because in our core, we're not quitters. We're going to keep
No.
going. This may not be where we want to be, but we're going to keep going. And I think the martial arts is universal in terms of generally when you find a lot of successful people now, and you talk to them, somewhere in that, there's a little core, they've got a little history of some form of martial art that started them on that disciplinary journey. And
Yeah.
it's a good thing to put in your foundation to have in your background, not
And
just for fighting and all.
it's hard to find these days. Uh, in particular, it's something you got to have something in our society. Like yourself, I raised 4 children.
Mhm.
So 2 boys, 2 girls. My eldest and youngest are girls, and the middle 2 are boys. My youngest daughter just turned 21. So that that generation, I think, when you and I were young and growing up, we didn't have the technology that our children had. Up until we were probably in high school or middle school, I would say middle school, junior high, you had 3 TV channels
Yep.
and your UHF, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to change it, you got up and walked across the room and you changed the channel.
Right.
If your dad wanted to change the channel or your mom,
You got up
you
and walked across the
got
room.
up, walked across the room. That we were
Changed
there
the channel.
remote. So that's just and we played outside. We were more
Yeah,
physical children.
we
You
were.
played neighborhood sports, whether you were playing baseball, kick the can,
Touch
hockey,
football,
yeah, touch football in the street, whatever. But
which turned into tackle football more times than
pretty
one.
quick, yeah. But our children in particular, and there's, I guess, all that to say the younger people that I'm working with, uh, it's interesting their theology on how things should be.
Their whole
And I think,
mindset.
yeah, their mindset. They have very, uh, and I'm speaking in generalities. This is not, I'm not picking on anyone. This is just very, very general, very,
Mhm.
very general. But yeah, uh, mostly a lack of understanding of how things outside work. They're very conscientious of technology
Right.
and the theory of how things work, because they've spent a lot of time in academia,
Mhm.
but they've not had their
But no
hands on a lot of
hands.
things.
Yeah.
They've not had their hands on a lot of things. When you and I were growing up, you ride your bicycle around the neighborhood or whatever. You
Yeah,
throw a chain, you knew how to put the chain back on. You
right.
probably knew how to put air in your tire. You knew how, maybe you put an inner tube in it. Maybe you were creative and you put a different set of handlebars on your bike,
We were
or
all
changed the
creative.
seat around, whatever, that's those are the things that I think most of the folks in our generation, most of the men in our generation, when we were young kids, did. And then, you got a little older, you probably had a car and you worked on your car a little bit, maybe, or whatever
You
it
had a
was.
shared experience through your buddy working on his car, and
Exactly.
you sat around and you
Yeah.
talked about what you could do. Nowadays, it's switched. With the technology. The kids, they may work on a bike, but they're building a bike on the
And
computer to use in their game.
right,
They're
right, right,
modifying
right.
the car on their computer to use in their game.
And usually
And
they're looking for some kind of cheat code so they can
yeah,
get better
to get better. And it's like,
without the
well,
effort.
you can't cheat. That defeats the purpose
Life don't
of
let you
doing
cheat.
it.
Yeah,
And the
there's no
thing,
cheat code.
it's instantaneous gratification for them. One thing that
Yeah,
really I always laugh at is when we were coming up, we didn't have cell phones and all that. We had a watch, and that you knew at certain times you had to be certain places, and
yeah.
there was a
Street life.
wherever you were, there was a payphone,
Yeah.
or if you were at so and so's house, there was the house phone, and you knew
Yes.
that, okay, 10:15, and your all these alarms they have and reminders. No, we had the street light
That's
to
it.
remind you when that street light hit, like, oh, I know where it's time I
I'm
needed to
headed
be.
home. Yeah.
When that sun started coming, like, oh, I know where it's time I needed to be. And there was no accountability. You had to be accountable. One of the
That's
things that this new with this COVID era, which has really changed everything, changed the landscape, is the way education is now. The kids, they're on the virtual school, and there
exactly.
are many pros and cons to the virtual. There's many pros and cons in terms of the way the pandemic's being handled. In our area, the pandemic is a factor. We've had several friends who have been sick, extremely sick. We've had people we've lost people. Some areas are not as hit, and they're not maybe don't realize the impact of it. But for us in Detroit, it's a serious thing, and we're doing the social distance and we're doing the mask, and the kids are online, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But one of the things their principal, my kids, I really loved her when we all had the big Zoom parent meeting, which was really a whole new concept. She stressed that yes, you will have a virtual schedule. You will show up on your virtual schedule in your camera. You will be in your uniform, and that is how you will conduct yourself. I don't care if you're at home. I don't care if you're not leaving the house. You will get up, get ready as if you're going to school, and then you'll just walk to your living room and get on your camera. And she said, because if you dress the part, you will do the part no matter where you are. It puts you in the frame of mind. And I like that discipline because kids now, they're so casual. A lot of these industries are so casual. You go into the stores, you don't know who works there, who doesn't, because it's so casual. Everything we do, and musicians, you look at bands. When we were coming up, we used to love when they introduced the MTV to us, or you go down to the state fair to see some of the bands, whatever. There was a uniform. They had their certain outfits they wear. They had their synchronized dancing. They had there was a rhythm to it. There was a professionalism to it. Now you get people, they're random. This member's doing this member's doing that. They're dressed any old kind of way. There's no formality to anything. And we've lost sight of that. If there's no formality, if there's no discipline, then you're going to have anarchy. And our world is basically it's becoming an anarchist based world. People do what
Yeah.
they want, they say what they want, they feel how they want. They don't socialize in person, so they don't know how to read facial cues, read body language, understand that, oh, you know what, maybe what I'm saying is kind of hurtful to the person. They don't care. They're on their keyboards protesting everything. You're not out in the world. If you and I had a problem, hey, Vince, you and me got to talk. We're taking it to the mat and we're going to talk that way. Or we're going
Yeah.
to step off the
If we
mat.
can't.
We're going to talk that way. We're not going to sit in, I'm going to tweet out, Vince drinks too much coffee and it's just ridiculous. Come on now. There's no accountability of that. There's no fallout from that. And the world is becoming that. People saying what they want to say. You don't even talk on the phone anymore. They're texting. I mean, I love texting. It's brief, but you got to talk on the phone. You got to
You
conversate with a person to understand what's in their voices. We are getting so detached that You see a lot of kids and you're thinking, in our generation, you're like, man, you are so rude. To them, they're not rude. They just don't know the social graces because they didn't have to have the social graces. You don't even have to go into a store anymore. You pick up your Amazon app, you order it, you're done.
Yep.
That's it. You don't even have to learn how to present yourself anymore. A lot of the jobs, you go on the application online, you type it in, you send it, they let you know you're hired. Here's your orientation. Click into this, you're done. We've lost so much. We've become so detached because technology, as you said, has just turned us into this. I don't know. We're not zombies, but we are becoming drones. We're almost becoming machines
Right. So
because we don't care. The kids,
Westworld type
they're
of,
losing all respect because, like you said, they don't have to do anything.
yeah.
It's so much easier.
Yeah. And to kind of bring that back around to our training, you know, you mentioned your son's uniforms for school. You know, the COVID experience where I'm at is much different. Again, I mentioned I live in a rural environment, pretty small town. We're pretty spread out, but our governor is he's he's treating it very severely. Okay, whether I agree with that or not, it's, that's my opinion. But and I will say it's hard on small businesses. It's very, very
Devastating.
hard on small businesses. And I'm sure in, New York, Chicago, Detroit, LA, whatever, where you have a large population of people in a very small area, it's much different from where I'm at, where, you know, I I live on uh, almost 200 acres. My nearest neighbor is 400, 500 yards away. And, the most people I see is if I choose to go to Walmart in town or my workplace, in my workplace. And we have uh, protocols in place there also, of course. But, the schools, my kids are doing virtual school at least through the end of this month. And it's very laxed in that aspect. From what I know, I'm usually gone in the morning, but they get up. They are doing interface with their teacher, which I like, as opposed to there were two options. You could do either the daily interface if you planned on going back to school when they release the restrictions. The other option was just to do virtual all the way through. And in that case, my understanding of the way it works is you just go through it's almost self-driven. You
Yeah.
just go through, you log in, basically read, or you look at some virtual presentation, or you get some information, and then you take a test. So
Yeah.
I know for me that would have been devastating as a
Yeah.
student,
For us too.
especially at a young age. I wasn't introduced to the martial arts until I was 20. And honestly, I sucked at self-discipline, as a child, and coming up, you know, probably had ADHD, may still have ADHD. I don't know, but I was very easily distracted. I was that, da squirrel kind of kid. So, that was just me. And it had, really had to have my interest to keep me focused. So COVID would have been devastating to me as a child.
Yeah.
But the whole uniform thing, and the way people uh, present, a lot of people have lost focus in that, or how important that is. But bringing that back to the dojo at Southfield, my first training was in Shorin-ryu Karate in 1990, and it was for a short stint here in, actually, it was in Kentucky. And then when I came to the Southfield dojo, that was the first large, what I would call a large dojo, a very formal school. The Shorin-ryu school that I studied in was real small and kind of less formal. We wore a gi. We still had that. You had to come in, you had to have your gi and all that. But like at Southfield, Sensei was regimented about your uniform.
Yeah.
on a class, you had to have a clean uniform. You wore your patches a certain way.
They had to be fixed properly.
Yeah. And then when you went to a tournament, you had certain expectations. You know, you wanted your gi clean. Your gi should be pressed. You know, when you show up, you were expected to conduct yourself in a certain manner. You
You
know,
were
and
a
there was a lot of
reflection of
formalities,
bottom line.
yeah, floor etiquette in the dojo that you would learn. You know, you didn't talk to adults with their common name. You used a surname, or you used a title based on their rank. You know, sensei or whatever. You know, but it was always Mister or Miss or whatever, and that meant something. You took that out into society, and you know, people take you more seriously when you present yourself, you know, in that manner. If you're a sloppy person and you're unable to verbally communicate in a decent manner,
They're not
nobody's
listening
going
to
to
you.
listen to what you say. You
They're
know, if
not listening
Dr.
to you.
Fauci showed up to do his presentation on the White House lawn in a torn T-shirt and board shorts and was like, "Dude, this COVID thing," nobody's going to listen to that.
Nobody's gonna listen to that.
You know, nobody's going to take you seriously. So we're a visual being first and foremost as humans. And there you take that back to martial art. You had mentioned it earlier. The eyes see all sides, the ears hear all directions. We're taught to take visual cues. That's one of the first things in self-defense, right? You're scanning, you're looking for those visual cues. But it's the same thing in life. Who do I want to listen to? Who do I not want to listen to? I have to visually understand that you're saying something of importance
Right.
before if it's in that environment. If I'm listening on the radio, obviously vision isn't going to be a part of it, but
then you're listening with your ears. You're hearing all
yeah,
directions.
and
You hear the
they have to
nuances
use
of
the right
voice.
words. Yeah,
You hear the passion in their voice. You've gotta we learn how to convey that. You present yourself. It's like
exactly.
at the beginning of our karate creed, I come to you with empty hands. I come to you, I'm I'm empty here. I'm presenting myself. If you first meet on the street with me, you know who I am, you don't know who you are. But if I come to you and my back is straight, my eyes are clear, my neck is up, my chest is not
You don't look
I'm
like prey.
it's like, you know what? I I'm clean, okay?
Yeah.
And that's like not necessarily have to be shaven, but I'm clean. My clothes are presentable.
Yep.
You automatically say, okay, this person has got something. When you hire companies to do work at your house, I recently had our central air went out during COVID, during the hottest, and we got a new air put in. And while they were there, they said, well, your furnace is 20 years old. So if you're going to do this, so of course, my wife was like, yeah, we're definitely going to do that. And I'm looking like we are, the marriage. You may be
Yeah.
the head of the house, but the wife is the neck. So when the
Exactly.
company came out that did it, I got to tell you, they had like at one point, I had like 4 or 5 guys running around my house area. They're all masked up, gloved up. These were the most professional men. I mean, they were all of them in their uniform, their shirt, everything. I mean, they're working hard outside. They're sweating. It didn't matter. They were from start to finish professional. They presented themselves as professional, knowledge, skilled workers, and that's how they did it. And I felt comfortable that they were doing a good job. I was able just to sit back and let them do their thing, as I would walk through the work, I would come in the basement and they're down there, they had a little radio going on, but they knew they were in a home. So they had the little speaker right next to sitting like on my little desk. So the only person could hear it was them. So they gave them their music, but they were respectful of the property they were in.
Yeah.
As they worked, they constantly cleaned up after themselves. When they would step into the house, they made sure, like, excuse me, sir, we're going to take our shoes. I said, don't worry about it. I can move this rug. It's not a problem. When they were outside doing things, they would cut metal and everything. They would constantly clean up after themselves. They kept the noise minimal because they realized they were in a neighborhood. And to me, you have other companies I've seen where they show up and there's 10 or 12 guys, but you don't know if these people working for this company or not. They're dressed any old kind of way. They're acting any old kind of way. They're talking about all kind of inappropriate junk. They're more interested in talking to their buddy about what happened last night than explaining to you that don't shut the water on yet because I got the plumbing turned off. And it presents itself, companies or employees or workers or people who present that disciplined look, that neat look, that's telling me that you took the time, you care enough about what you're doing to present this professional look so that I'm going to say, you know what, go with you. And like you said, our dojo was like that. When I started at Dexter Davison, which is in Detroit, if anyone's not familiar, back in the day, Dexter Davison was a very, 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 very bad area. It's a little rough. But you walk into that dojo, it was not a nice place. It was basic building. Sensei had discovered long ago that people would get distracted, so our windows were sealed shut and painted over, so you couldn't look out the window. There was no air. In the wintertime, a lot of times there was no heat. One of the cold dojo owners, it was an Aikido stylist, he had huge dogs, so you'd have the smell of the dog. But when you step on that mat, it didn't matter because the building was old, but we still swept that building. That mat was just crazy thick and whatever, and it was sold in every spot, but we still cleaned and kept that mat clean. When you stepped on that dojo, it didn't matter that there was no air and it was sweating. You better have on a clean gi when you walk in. There were showers in there. So when you get ready to train, if you didn't shower at home, you better shower there so that when you step on that mat, you're not funky. Now,
Yeah.
after an hour or two of training, you're going to be funky. But even then, there was a shower there. You conducted yourself. When the roof used to leak, and it was hilarious because now my sensei that ran the Dexter Davison dojo, Master Woods, would put buckets everywhere, and you better not hit that bucket. I don't care if you're fighting with Kumite, we're battling head on. You better not hit that bucket. But what it taught you is that no matter what is going on around you, you still do what you need to do. Your training taught you to do this, this, and this. Okay, so it's raining. Doesn't matter. I'm still doing this, this, and this. Okay, it's super hot in here. Doesn't matter. I'm still doing this, this, and this. I'm still going to dress my proper way. I'm still going to discipline my mind. And you take that into life. I'm in the plant. It's ridiculous in that plant. It's so doggone hot. It's an old plant. It's super hot. It doesn't matter. My training taught me how to breathe, how to regulate my air in the heat situation, which works not just for fighting, but every day in life. My training taught me how to discipline my mind so that this is driving me crazy, but I can focus on other things, break it down. And you carry that through. You carry that discipline. You go to work, I want to go to work. I work in a plant, but I don't have to be nasty. It's a nasty place to work, but I don't have to be. I'm going to wear my coverall. I'm going to make sure that I'm clean. My equipment is clean. My work area is clean. It's discipline. And we're losing sight of that discipline. You've got this phenomenon over the last decade, the internet, the tech billionaires, the trendsetters, whatever, and they come up with this app, and there's this new breed. There's no respect for anything. There's no formality, anything. Okay, maybe some people can create in that environment, but how do you grow in that environment? If you take nothing serious, how do you become serious? If you take nothing and make it structured, how do you maintain a structure? And we've lost sight of that. And we're fortunate because our training has taught us that no matter what you do, you got to maintain order. That's the key to life. When you're in a fight, you got to maintain that order. Okay. When you're in your marriage, you got to maintain that order. Raising kids, you've got to move in every direction you can because you never know which way that challenge of child raising is going to take you. But your discipline keeps you going because you know that, okay, I got to change this diaper. This is not something I want to do, but it's something that I
Gotta be
must do,
done.
and I'm going to do it neatly. I'm going to get it done. If I do it properly, do it neatly, I can get it done quickly. Then I can move on to something better. You know, I talk with my boys a lot when we're doing our training at home. My youngest trains with me at the dojo. The other two were at the dojo when they were younger, but they say, no, we don't want to. We live with you. We can get it from there. One of the things that we've been developing, I say, when you're in fighting, and even as a philosophy in life, I said it's not so much I'm training to beat a person or whatever. I'm training to destroy a threat. Everything is you consider it a threat. I don't look at the person. I consider the person the threat. Now, how do I destroy the threat? My training teaches me how to destroy it one way, but it also teaches me how to destroy it another way. If you're in a situation and there's going to be a threat to you, if you perceive a threat and the person comes at you, that's a definitive threat. That's imminent threat. You destroy the threat. Now you say, oh, well, I'm going to beat him up. No, don't think that I'm going to beat him up. I'm going to kill him. You simply think I'm stopping the threat. And if you put it in that, by any means necessary, you will stop that threat. Sometimes stopping the threat means you realize it, you pick up on it, you walk away, you get in your car, you leave. Threat neutralized. Sometimes the threat is, hey man, how you doing today? You okay? You realize, oh my God, dude, you know what? I'm not okay. You've minimalized the threat. Sometimes the threat is they're putting their hands on you, you break them down, boom, you've minimized the threat. If you look at it in that terms, you can focus so much better. Same thing in life. A threat, you lose your job, that's a threat to your security. How do you eliminate the threat? You find another job.
Yeah.
You realize that if I have to eliminate this threat, I got to find another job. I'm going to lose a lot of my expectations. I'm going to lose a lot of that pride. I'm going to do whatever it takes to eliminate the threat to my home security, to my home, to taking care of my family. We're in the world today. A lot of these young folks, they don't realize that because they feel like, well, I deserve this. Well, I
That's the
went this,
key.
I
I don't
went
know where
here,
that
I
came
deserve
from.
this.
Where does this entitlement come
Yeah.
from?
And I mean, you see these young kids, they're driving in their cars and they're racing up and down the street, and you're like, hey, slow down. Please don't tell me this. I have a right to do this. What right have you what have you done? Do you think that you earned that? Honestly, what have you done? Been in
Yeah.
your parents' house, used your parents' money, and bought a car. What have you done? You know, you find that a lot of the kids who are out here with the part-time jobs, they're a little different. They're a little different.
Yeah.
They still got the detachment and there's still that whole generational attitude, which is baffling to me. But they're understanding, like, hey, you know what? I'm doing this because I went to work for this. I bought this car because I earned this car. I went up, I went on this job, I did this. So now I've got something. And it's a different mindset. But we're getting so far away from that. And as parents, we want to give our kids everything. We worked hard, we struggled hard, we did stuff, and we don't want our kids to go through that. But then sometimes you got to say, well, where's the balance? Am I hindering them? Am I hurting them? Because now they've had it so easy, they don't understand. I look at a lot of kids, a lot of my friends' kids, and, in my house, we've got one rule in our house: respect mom, respect the queen. That's the only rule. That's it. You want to come at dad, come right on. But mom, respect the queen. And if you respect your mom, if you respect the queen of the house, that carries on and you will respect other women. The disrespect to women nowadays is shocking. Is shocking. They don't, guys, men of all ages, they don't respect the women. And it's become such a casual thing that the ladies, the women, are no longer demanding that respect. They're almost accepting the fact that, well, you can treat me like a second class citizen. It's okay because I'm an independent woman. No, it's not okay. It's not okay.
But that's a philosophy that's been lost.
It's been lost.
And that, again, maybe we're old school, and people think we are old school. We're not as old school as our parents,
And
I
that's
don't think,
what's
but
wrong with the old school. When we
yeah, there's
say the
nothing
old
wrong with it.
school,
It got us through there, right? But this whole woke generation, that's the word, right?
oh
Woke.
my God, yes.
How do you, that
What are
goes
you
back
woke
to the
to?
whole discipline thing, even with the uniform or whatever. You're, you can't hold, it just does away with expectation, right? You can't expect anything out of anybody because society tells you we're not allowed to judge.
Mm-hmm.
Or I wouldn't even call it judging. Let's just say holding
Judge.
expectation,
Yeah.
that there should be a minimum requirement for how people act
Right.
or interact with each other.
Right.
It's nuts. And right now, September of 2020, it's at a pinnacle. Our country is in absolute chaos. You look at the West Coast right now, what's going on in Portland and cities like that. You know, there's definitely been some bad stuff go on, and I think it's been heightened due to COVID, you know,
Mhm.
and the shutdown of the country. People got more time, they got more anxiety,
Way
you
more
know,
anxiety,
and
more
it's
anger.
definitely ramped this thing up, you know.
Mhm.
But these underlying social issues, I guess I would call them, this whole woke community
Mhm.
in that environment has now just
Exploded.
exponentially exploded
Exploded.
and created utter chaos. But
And how do
in
you
our
come
school
back from that?
systems, you know, all these things that you've mentioned, uh, you're not allowed to teach because, you know, I guess as a parent, you know, we send our kids to public school. Everybody has the option to, I guess, send your kids to private school if you can afford it. I
Right.
shouldn't say everybody has the option, but it's out there. If you can
Yeah.
afford it.
If you can afford it.
Now, again, I live in a rural community. Private schools, there's not many. There's starting to become a couple, and I mean in the last couple of years, but we go to county schools, you know, so there's a very large area that goes to one school. And, you know, again, coming up, there was discipline in schools, right? There was corporal punishment when I went to school. If you
And you bet
misbehaved,
not receive discipline in school because when you got home, you were going to get it
you get
again.
it twice. That's
And that's
right.
something else that shifted. In school, back when we were coming up, our parents, it mattered how you acted in school. Nowadays, you have these parents who they send their kids to school. The school is the kids unruly, the kids undisciplined. When the teacher tries to enact any type of discipline on them, you've got the parent jumping on the teacher. It's like, hold
Exactly.
on. You sent your child to this person to try to teach them. They're not able to teach them because the child won't behave. And now you're mad at the teacher for trying to instill some discipline that you obviously haven't instilled. And then flash forward 10 or 15 years, that kid is running ramshot over the house, and you're wondering, oh, well, how did I let it get? Where did it go? I can't control them. Well, gee,
Yeah.
wonder why.
I have a big, this probably started even before I left Michigan and came here. Uh, it was when I became aware of it. So I would say mid 90s, you know, the alternative school program, especially for high school students, you know, they would have an alternative school and primarily for behavioral problems, right? They take these rowdy kids out of the public school system and put
Put
them
them
over here into alternative school.
in.
I understand in theory why you would do that. You know, you don't want to be a distraction to the other students. Maybe it's not fair to the other students. So you remove them and you put them over here in alternative school. However, after 12th grade, there is no alternative society. Alternative society is prison.
Exactly.
If you can't get along with the group
That's
and
right.
you act out, yeah, we'll remove you from the group and put you in prison.
That's right.
That's so instead of trying to deal with the issue when it occurs, we encourage the issue by removing you from here and treating you like you're special.
Yeah.
You're not
We tell
special.
you, you don't have to
You're
conform. We're going to
defiant.
make a place for you. And if you
Yeah,
act up, we're still going to try to work with you, but you don't have to conform. Like, no, we take it back to the dojo. There were numerous occasions where people would come visit the dojo. Now, I'm a type of person that's always smiling because life is stressful. And I find that if you smile, it takes away some of the stress. It may sound silly, but if you're having a bad day, just smile and it releases endorphins. I'm not even going to get into the science. But when you step in the dojo, if you come in the dojo and you're acting out of order, we're not going to remove you from class. We're going to discipline you in class.
yeah,
You're going to learn how to respect that other student. If because you've dealt with bullies at the dojo just like I've dealt with them. If you've got someone who's coming in and for whatever reason he's got the sweet technique or she's got the sweet technique, and they're picking on the lesser fighter or the person whose kata is not good, you got pulled aside. I know I used to get pulled aside. Mr. Gulley, so and so is displaying some strange behavior. Would you teach them the error of their ways? Absolutely. And I'm going to respectfully whoop your ass
exactly.
because you're going to be taught that, okay, bro, I don't care what you were before you came in here. You come in here, this is how we're expected to act. You're either going to conform or you're going to get hurt. We're not going to ask you to leave. We're not going to
Yeah.
demand that you leave. We're going
It's going to be
to,
your choice.
yeah,
But life's not going to be comfortable if you
life is
continue
not going
to
to be
act the
not,
way you
not,
do.
you can't go to work and say, oh, well, I don't get along with any of my coworkers. Okay, we're going to have an alternative office for you over here. No, you're either going to get along with your coworkers or you're going to get fired.
That's it.
So life has to prepare you for that.
Yep.
And we learned that at a very early age at the dojo. We learned it from our homes too, because that's the way the generation was. But it reinforced to us that, hey, sometimes this is not going to work. I just got to deal with this. I've got to conform to deal with this. But people are not doing that. Oh, you're freezing up. Oh, there you go. Okay. And like you said, the alternative schools and the special programs and this, no, no, no. To an extent, yes. But it was better when you had the resources. We've stripped our educational resources to the bare minimum that these teachers, they don't have the equipment. Anytime teachers have to start sending out lists at the beginning of the year so that everyone, could you please bring paper towels, extra pencils? I mean,
Right.
they
We get the
can't
same thing
even
here. Yeah.
give you the lessons because they've been stripped the budget. So they've got to try to manage a budget so they can teach. And then they've got to try to teach in an atmosphere where oftentimes the parent is not
Yeah, they have
supporting
no
them in that
authority
effort.
either. Not
No
only do they
authority.
not have resources, they don't have
Yeah.
authority.
You can't say this, you can't do that. Everything, people have gotten so sensitive. You know, people have gotten so sensitive that you can't say anything. And sometimes you need to say something. I'm gonna give you a funny example. At my kid's school, one of the teachers, he's the computer guy. I mean, this guy was amazing with the computers, and he and I are roughly the same age. He was a white guy. Of course, I'm black, as you can see. But
I hadn't noticed.
at the Halloween, the principal did not believe in Halloween, but he would allow the kids to have like a trick or treating. I mean, like a harvest. You could dress up in a costume.
Right.
And this particular teacher, he came in with a red shirt and blue pants. And everyone was like, well, what are you? What are you? And no one got it. So when I came to the school and I was like, hey, I said, oh, you got your costume. He said, do you know what I am? I said, you're the flag, red, white, and blue. And he's like, yeah. And people were like, and we're like, what? We didn't, you're saying he's white. He is white.
Why can't we just say what's
He's
obvious?
red, white, and blue. What's the problem? And it was so hilarious because everyone was just dancing around. People were so uncomfortable. And then once you say it, you stop and you're like, oh, you know what? That is kind of funny. He's not in any way laughing at that joke and sharing that joke with him is in no way insulting his race or heritage. And it's in no way saying something about you. What it's saying is you acknowledge that this man is a white man who decided to use his color to go into this costume and represent America and give you a laugh. That's all you're saying. But we are so afraid now, you know? And yes, racism is strong. I've experienced it in so many different ways. I've experienced it in so many different ways. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop being me. And that doesn't mean I'm going to look at every person as if, okay, okay, he's white. All right, he's got a crew cut. Yeah, he's racist. Okay, Vince, he's down in Kentucky. Yeah, he's definitely a member of the Klan. You know, you can't do that. I got to talk with you for a second, have a conversation, because the person that really may be doing me damage may not be the white person standing to my left. It could be the black person standing on my right. You don't know. You've got to give each person the benefit of the doubt. You open your eyes, you listen to what they're saying, you watch what they're doing. Then you make your determination because sometimes the person you think is your best friend, if you really look at their actions, really listen to their conversation, you realize that, well, you know what? There's a bite to that conversation. There's an edge to that conversation. They're actually undermining me. It doesn't matter what color they are. And we've lost track of that because we're, like you said, circling back to the tech. We've detached and we're jumping on any bandwagon. People, this was something that I do my YouTube channel, my other YouTube channel, and one of the we have discussions a lot. And back when President Trump, when the COVID first hit, now I have very strong opinions about President Trump. I'm not going to go into them here, but let's just say I don't agree with most of his presidential policies. One thing he did do is when COVID first broke, And he asked the medical doctor, the medical board, he was sitting there, he says, you know how if there's some kind of way, can we like have some kind of medicine to flush the toxin out? Like for instance, like you know how bleach and that stuff kills it. Can we come up with some kind of medicine that would flush the toxins out? And everybody jumped on it. And you got memes of people hooking themselves up to bleach and people, and they're going on and on because they just hate Trump and he says so many things that are just whatever. And I started to say, wait a minute, people, hold on. I don't agree with most of what this man does, but isn't all he's really saying is there a way, like in dialysis, you hook up, you bring the bad blood out, you put the good blood in? He's asking, can we safely and scientifically come up with something that would filter the blood and get rid of COVID? And when I said that, a lot of the main folks who were fussing, they were like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I didn't think about that. I said, it's just like dialysis. Why can't you get past the hatred and stop and say, hey, he might be saying something. If you concentrate on the skin color or the rhetoric, then you may miss the opportunity to say, wait a minute, if the ear doesn't listen in all directions, you may miss, okay, this man may say 20,000 things stupid, but if that one thing he says is smart, if you're not listening for it, you're going to miss that. And we've done that. We generalize with everything now. We so we jump on bandwagons, we jump in the next movement. I like to play the devil's advocate. If you come to me with something, I'm going to say, and this drives my wife crazy. If you come to me with something, and I'm going to say, well, wait a minute, hold on. What's this going on here? I said, well, from this perspective, I can see this. You should just be on my side. No, you can't do that. Because if you're presenting something, you've got to look at this side and you got to look at that side. Then you can make an informed decision. We're in a society now where we're giving up that power. We're letting society tell us what side we're going to be in.
Yeah.
We want to be like that reed of grass in the wind. We're letting the wind say which one we're going
Give
to
way
be.
to force, right?
We're losing that.
That's it's a really good point you bring out there. And some people lack, I mean, this guy's the president of the United States, but that doesn't mean he's knowledgeable of everything, right? You work with what you have.
Yeah.
So with his knowledge and vocabulary, that was the best way he had to explain the situation at hand. Now you're talking to a room full of scientists who hopefully can say, well, yeah, you want a way to disinfect the body. Right. If I can wipe a counter down with bleach and immediately kill the virus, can I likewise? Same thing happened with the UV light, right? They say COVID dies immediately in UV light. Right. And, well, is there a way that we can light up the inside of the body? I think that was a question that was presented and took as ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's actually, they're actually doing something very similar now. I've heard recently on another podcast where there's, they are doing that. Well, they put lights inside the body all the time, right? Cameras and lights. So it's not unheard of. That's how innovation happens. There was a time when men sat on the ground and watched birds fly in awe and thought, wouldn't that be nice?
And now look at us.
Yeah, we're flying all over the place. But it's man, it's crazy times. But here we are, we started off talking about how we're very visual people, or earlier on we were talking about visual people and how we present ourselves. Sometimes your eyes can defeat you.
Oh, definitely.
That's where it's important that you be able to discern, use your ears, like you said, and shut off your eyes. Along with the striking arts, I grapple. In my dojo, we do the Ishinryu karate. We also do Sanshinryu jiu-jitsu, which is a eclectic Japanese style of, it's American, but based on a Japanese principle, I guess. And then we're starting to incorporate some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But a lot of times when I'm grappling on the ground, I'll close my eyes. And it's more about what I feel than what I see. When I'm doing stand-up, it's visual cues. I'm watching movement. I'm watching, everything. But on the ground, a lot of times I'll just, close my eyes and I'm feeling the pressure and feeling the balance and, working off, especially if I'm on my back. I'm just working pressures. But I guess that point being, there's no such thing as, and that goes back to my day job as an engineer. There's no such thing as a bad idea. You know, it may sound foolish, but there's a part of it that's going to be, lead to something better. I work for a Japanese
Right.
company, and one of the principles that they have is called Kaizen. And you,
Yeah,
you may have heard
we
this
use it too.
term. It's it's
Yep, we
commonly
use it
used in
too.
automotive, but it means continuous improvement, right? Kaizen is continuous improvement.
Hmm.
And in our culture,
You prevent your ideas with the Kaizen, and then they
yeah,
review the Kaizen, and
yeah,
sometimes your idea doesn't work. Sometimes it leads to a better idea.
yeah.
So
So
it's again,
ultimately, in the Kaizen principle, 1% improvement 100 times is 100% improvement.
it's 100%
As
improvement.
long as we're moving forward, right? As long as we're moving forward, that's all we need to do. But if you shut yourself off to that as even a possibility, you will never improve. And that's the same way we operate in the dojo, right? That's what we learn from the get-go is it's not a sprint.
Well, we want to
It's a
improve.
it's a lifestyle.
Yep.
You continue to grow. You have
Long
short-term
haul.
goals and you have long-term goals. And I love the way that, coming up, we had, the only way I know to put it, the term has negative connotations, but we had segregation in the dojo, you know,
Oh yeah,
but it was used for a positive manner because you had Qs and you
yeah.
had Dons, right? And
That's right.
Qs
You're a
didn't,
Q. You were expected to act a
you were a
certain way.
Q. Yeah. And
You did not act a certain way. The Dons would let you know.
right, we had our own locker. Well, as Qs, you had your own locker room. You had to line up on a certain side of the mat,
Mhm.
and it was all based on rank, right? Or
That's
or
right.
time and grade, whatever. And you just fell in order. There was an order. It
Yeah.
wasn't because of who you are as much as it was what you had done, right?
Right.
Had nothing to do with the person inside the gi. It was the gi and the belt. But you always, as a cue, you were looking at the Dons on the other side of the room, and that's where you wanted to be.
That's where you want it to be.
You know,
And
you
it,
were
and,
looking
and,
at a
and
goal.
it develops your character because the interesting point you just made is and like it's just the person. It was really interesting because you come in and when we got our black belts, we became Dons and we started moving up in rank. We became the Don. So now I'm the Don that the Q was looking at. And in my real life, I'm just a common line worker. And this guy is the owner of a Fortune 500 company. On the mat, now I am the Don, he is the Q. I'm
Roles
still
are reversed.
respecting him for trying to come up, but he's respecting my knowledge. So it's like the dojo is it's the evening
It's the
ground.
equalizer.
It's
Yeah.
the thank you. I knew
Yes.
I knew I had to come that could get that word. It's the equalizer. It doesn't matter who you are when you come in there. When you step in there, you become a person who is after one thing, and that is self-improvement. That's it.
That's it.
And we're losing sight of that in all aspects, you know. I tell I tell, you know, I tell when I'm teaching karate at the dojo, I tell the students now I haven't been able to teach as much because I got this bad hip and I'm dealing with crap. But whenever it always would hurt me when someone a student would say, you know, oh, I didn't want to ask that because I didn't want you to think I was silly. That always bothers me because in my opinion, and I tell people this, the only bad or stupid question is the one you don't ask. That's the only bad question. The only bad question in life is the one you don't ask. If I come to you and I present it to you as a teacher, and the master has said, you are now a teacher and I want you to teach, then at that point, I have to say, any question, I got to be able to feel that. And I cannot make this person feel bad for answering that because I can tell you for a fact, I used to drive Master West crazy because I had some stupid questions. I can tell you for a fact. He would answer each and every one. Sometimes he would crack up while he was doing it. But if it wasn't for that, you know, you go to Master
Yeah.
Adams, he's gonna look at you and you've gotten the look
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
But he's going to answer every question. This is a man who's literally one of the highest ranks in the world, you know, not just in our dojo, in the world. And he is going to talk to the newest student and listen and be patient and give him that knowledge, because he understands that as a teacher, it is my job to teach you. Doesn't matter how high I get, because I want you to rise up this high. So in order to do that, I've got to take all this knowledge and give that to you. If I get to the point where I'm just got so much knowledge, but okay, you don't need to know this, then you will never rise. So and that's I basically just killed my organization. If we do that at work, you get some of these bosses that think that they're so hoity-toity, they don't want to associate with they will never rise. So as a result, your productivity is not going to rise. If
Yep.
you've got your friends and you're having success and they're struggling and you decide to disassociate them, then you've just lost that. You will not continue to rise because you don't know what it means. They will not rise. We cannot do that. We cannot get into this whole thing. Well, I've arrived at this point, so now I'm better. No, I've arrived at this point, so now I'm in a better position to help you. Now, on the flip side, if I'm offering the help and you repeatedly refuse the help or you don't care, then at that point, I wish you no ill, but now my resources are not going to you anymore.
That's it.
Let's not be stupid about it.
Yeah, I can't
But
beat you into submission.
initially, we've got to be at that spot that I'm not so much, I don't want to always be confrontational. I want to be in a position to understand. You deal with all of these protests going on, and we had when Floyd was killed, we had a big protest here in Oak Park, Michigan, and it was, oh my God, it was a couple of thousand people. They were all races, all ages, all nationalities. They were walking down Coolidge with the signs, and the police were walking right with them. Not one incident, not one incident, because those were people who were saying there is a problem, we need to address it. Okay, I'm a white person, I don't understand your problem, but I understand that there is a problem. I want to address that. I'm a black person, there's a problem. I'm so thankful that you're walking with me and that you're accepting me, and you're accepting that. Then you get these other areas where they're agitators. They want the anarchy. You come in and you deliberately start crap, these Antifa groups, all this, they want anarchy. If we feed into that rhetoric and instantly jump on, oh, that happened, so that whole group was wrong. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Look at what happened. This particular person did this, which sparked that. If you feed into that, then you're going to lose sight. Everyone is becoming, it's like either this or that, either this or that. We're no longer able to
Hypersensitive.
say
Yeah,
America was
hypersensitive.
founded on the nation that, okay, we don't like this idea, so we're going to try to go and make a better idea. All right. And that's what we're doing. But when you get into the point where I don't like this idea, so I'm going to make this idea, but I'm going to crush your idea because I don't understand your idea, so your idea is stupid. Well, no, that's not what the world is. And we're at that point where we're losing sight of how to coexist, not just with races against races, within your own race. I see the signs all over Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter. And the one thing that bothers me being in the inner city and dealing with so much stuff, and Black Lives Matter, but they need to matter to Black people as well.
I hear
You
you.
know, White Lives Matter, but they got to matter to white people as well. You've got to we got to change this narrative a bit. We've got to look at this and say, okay, people, it's time to step back, let's calm down a bit, and let's see how we can move forward. Because if we don't do that, people are saying we're headed towards a civil war, we're heading towards a worldwide, meltdown. We're not
Yeah,
headed towards anything. We're there.
yeah. And
This is what
that's
it looks like. 2020, this is what it looks like. Anarchy, craziness. At some point, you got to stop and say, okay, I've been shouting. Now let's see if it's been heard. But if you
exactly.
keep shouting, if I'm shouting and you're shouting, nothing gets heard.
Nothing gets heard.
And
Because when my mouth's moving, my ears aren't listening.
that's right. And
And
in
we're
the
an hour
dojo,
and
sometimes
15
it's like,
minutes in. So
oh, that's
probably a
good. Let's
good,
cut it.
yeah. So, well, just to close that up, what you just brought up, perfect, because that's really what prompted this whole idea. And,
Exactly. Just
what,
men of
what we're
different
doing here,
backgrounds having a
obviously,
discussion.
you know, people are going to see this. And the conversations that we've had, yes, you're Black. I'll go ahead and say it, Art. If nobody told you, I'm white. Okay, I'm white. And
I didn't know.
but you
Thought it
live
was
in
the lighting.
you're in Detroit, yeah, inner city. I'm down here in the foothills of Appalachia,
Mhm.
southeastern Kentucky. Uh, so very different environments,
Totally.
but we have a lot of things in common. And if people are going to look at this, or you may look at us independently and think we have nothing in common, and we ought to
Hmm.
be on opposite sides
Yeah.
of the current situation, and we're not going to agree on everything.
Not gonna. It's
You
not
know,
gonna. It's not supposed to be.
I'm sure, as I've heard you say, we probably have some differences in political views,
Yeah. And
but
it's
that's
okay.
okay.
It's
There's nothing
okay.
wrong with that.
Yeah.
And as a country, I'll admit it, our past is not perfect.
Not.
We've made mistakes, but we've brought up the concept of Kaizen, right? Improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the martial arts, my goal is not to defeat my enemy. My goal is to be better tomorrow than I am today.
Exactly.
And we need to embrace that as a culture, as a country, and as human beings. And if we do that, the collective will be stronger.
And I'm not adding anything to that because you summed it up in a nutshell. That's it. So I'm not adding anything to that.
So going forward, I mean, as we do more of this, hopefully we can just keep building on that, sharing information, let
And
other people
bringing in
hear
other
what we
topics
have to
that we can
say.
kind of crunch out. And
Yeah,
if
if
someone
anybody wants
hears
to make,
this, it'll wake other
comments
people up.
or whatever. Sorry, I don't mean to talk over you,
Oh, no
but
problem.
this is round one, right? So we'll
Yeah.
just see where this takes us.
Yeah. And the thing, like I said, for anyone watching us, thank you for tuning in to us. We hope that we've just, if we haven't given you information that you didn't already know, we hope we've just put a seed in your brain that you can water and you can say, and one, like you said, 1%, if we can just one thought at a time can improve anything. If you can just open up one mind at a time, and that mind can open up another mind, and this idea can lead to that idea. And if we can just make this world a better place, just one little podcast at a time,
Exponential growth,
it's
right?
worth it, man.
Yeah,
It's totally
that's
worth
it.
it. Mhm.
And anybody out there that's not training in the martial art, go look in your local
You
dojo.
better get to a dojo, and it
Go
doesn't
go
matter
go check it
what
out.
dojo. People,
If it's
people.
something that you've thought about,
Hmm.
you know, we're
You.
80s kids, so we were inundated with Chuck
Oh
Norris
yeah.
and Bruce Lee and
Yes.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. So
Jim Kelly and
uh,
Steven Seagal
Steven
and the,
Seagal,
the,
Jim
the
Kelly, man.
2:30 a.m.
He's from
Kung Fu
Kentucky.
classics.
Jim Kelly's from Kentucky. He's a
Yeah,
Lexington boy.
yeah.
So yeah, shout out to Kentucky martial arts.
You were predominantly trained in Michigan, buddy.
You're right.
So
You're right.
but no, shout
And
out to Kentucky. Shout out to the
shout
to
out
the
to
world.
all our Ishinru brothers and sisters out there.
Hmm.
And that's one
As
big
always,
family. One big
a huge
family. And
thanks
I'm
to our
missing it, man. COVID has shut down the martial arts tournament circuit. And I miss seeing my extended family.
yeah.
That has been bad.
You missed the competition. You missed seeing the growth. It was like last year at the Grand Nationals. I hadn't seen you in years. It was great to see you out on the mat, to see where your katas have gone. Because I remember how your katas used to look. It was great to see, like, man, look at the precision. To see that development. It was great to hear how your family is doing. Our brothers and sisters. It's great to. It's just COVID has changed it, and technology. I like how at this moment technology is a rough thing, but I like how we're using it to try to do something positive, to show like the positive side of technology. It's allowed this person in Kentucky and this person in Detroit who share a common background but share so many. It's allowed us to come together and say, hey man, let's use technology to do something better.
That's
And
it.
hopefully it'll continue. And before we kick off, I would like to say, as always, I gotta acknowledge huge thanks to the men that have made us who we are. And first and foremost, our Grandmaster Willie Adams. For me, Master Eugene Woods, Master Reggie Phillips, Master Michael Schaefer, you know, Master Melvin Early,
Yeah,
Master
all those
Charles
guys.
Martin. And and a big shout out. I've been feeling a lot I've been missing Master Charles Rice, who we lost
Rice.
to cancer some years back.
Yeah,
But
that's tough.
these men brought us up, and we hopefully in turn can bring other folks up. So if anybody who's joining us or watching this, thank you so much. Please, if you got comments, suggestions, or topics, we love to hear it. You know, like we always say, let's take it to the mat if we got a problem. Let's take it to the screen if we got a problem.
Yeah, one-on-one. Don't shout it out.
Yep.
Just work it out, right?
Work
Just
it out.
work it out.
Yep. Stop
And nothing
shouting it out. Start
personal.
working it
You
out.
know, it ain't personal. Like, you know, that's what I always loved about Master Woods. You know, he would instill that in us.
Yeah,
It has nothing to do with emotion. When it becomes physical, we're just going to work.
that's
That's
right.
it. It's just business.
It's business as usual. Next time too, I'm gonna have a better background. I'm in my man corner in the basement. I love
Me
your
too.
shutter
I
and the
was trying to
sofa.
find something without all this backlight,
Yeah,
but
the backlight is better than the back cave I got going on here because I got the basement refrigerator and my corner
yeah.
is by the furnace and all. So hopefully
But
my
that's life,
background will be
right?
better.
Life's not perfect, so we will improve.
We
Little
will.
by little, we will improve.
We will. All
So,
right. So I guess we're gonna sign off.
yeah, man, have a good day. We'll
You
see
too,
you.
man. Enjoy. Get some
Enjoy.
training in.
All right.